Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, How to Give Your Community a Voice in School Safety. My name is Corey Murray. I'm the content guy here at K-12 Insight, and I'm going to be your MC today. We're excited to have the team at Klein ISD here to talk about safety. It's certainly an issue that's been on everyone's mind and something that we're all wrestling with. Before I turn things over to the team, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, so keep an eye on your email because we'll send it to you after the call. Today's presentation is going to go about 40 minutes. We'll have some time for questions and answers at the end. If you do have a question during the webinar, simply type it into the box on your screen and hit submit. We'll answer those questions in the order that they are received. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Shelby McIntosh. Shelby, they're all yours.
Thank you, Corey. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're really excited about the content that we have to share with you today. Really quick, just a couple notes about me. I'm the Vice President of Client Success here at K-12 Insight, which means I get to work with our school district partners all over the country, and I get to hear really wonderful stories about the work that they're doing all of the time, and including the story that we're going to share with you today out of Klein ISD in Texas. Just a little bit about me. I've started in education as a classroom teacher in Lewisville, Texas, in the northern part of the state. I was a high school English teacher for about 6 years before I moved to Washington, D.C. to study education policy, and I was a policy analyst at the Center on Education Policy before joining K-12 Insight in 2013. Really just wanted to get back down to the ground level and work with school districts and help them do the hard work that they do every day. So I've had the good fortune to do that with K-12 Insight over the past 5 years. Speaking of a little bit more about that company, about K-12 Insight, before we jump into this topic, we've been around since 2002, and our main mission is to help school districts build trust with their stakeholders, really building them up to be leaders who lead by listening. And we're really proud to work with over 400 school districts across the country and to be affiliated with some of the premier education associations across the country. Obviously, we're talking about safety today, and safety has always been top priority in our schools, but it's different today than it was 15 years ago when I was in the classroom, certainly. It's not just about physical safety, such as locked doors and cameras anymore. And in the wake of Parkland and other recent tragedies, it's become more about emotional safety and this feeling of knowing that our students are safe and that parents can understand or feel a sense of security and safety for their kids while they're at school. And as part of that, we need to give them a voice in order to report what they see and to ask questions so that they feel safe. Just a few statistics here to remind us how we got to this point. These come from the Educators School Safety Network, and they estimate that there have been over 960 threats made against K-12 schools just this year, just in the first part of 2018, and over 100 incidents of so-called, or we'll call so-called violent incidents in our schools, and that doesn't include things like bullying and fighting. And when you see numbers like that, it certainly makes sense why this has become such a national conversation. And we, again, at K-12 Insight, our work is to help build trust between school districts and the families they serve. And obviously a sense of safety is a big part of that trust. So we believe a key part of building that trust is giving parents and students and staff a voice, especially when it comes to helping them build that sense of both physical and emotional safety. It's become increasingly clear that schools have to give parents and students and others a way to step up and report potential problems or ask questions that will help them feel that sense of security and build that trust with their school district. So as part of that, we really wanted to tell you this story about the great work that our friends in Klein ISD are doing. And we have a great team from that school district joining us today. I'm going to introduce them to you very quickly. Dr. Brett Champion is the superintendent there. And Dr. Jenny McGowan's also joining us. She's the deputy superintendent. Chief David Kimberly is the police chief of the Klein ISD Police Department. Judy Romano is joining us. She's the Assistant Superintendent of Communications and Planning. And from her team, Justin Albert's joining us. He's the Community Relations Manager. So Klein recently launched a new initiative called Keep Klein Safe, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here. And this program includes both in-person safety education, an online tool for reporting potential threats and concerns. But most importantly, parents, students, and staff can also use the site to find answers to frequently asked questions, and then ask questions that they don't find answers to on that page. The team says that this initiative is contributing to a safer school climate, and they're joining us here today so they can tell you more how it works. But before we dive very deeply into this initiative specifically, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Champion so that he can tell you a little bit more about his district.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shelby. It's an honor to be here today. We certainly appreciate our terrific partnership with K-12 Insight and the work that your team and the team over at K-12 Insight continues to provide for us here in Klein ISD. The district is definitely not my district. I appreciate that. It is definitely our district, and we're a small representation of it here today. There were obviously a whole lot of folks who worked on this project and moved some things forward. Specifically, our Klein ISD is a district of about over 53,000 students. We are in northwest Harris County, all in unincorporated areas. So there's not like there's a city that has a city council and a mayor that's Klein, Texas. So if you're looking for that, it doesn't exist. We are kind of the center of the community is the schools. We are very much a school district of rooftops. There's not a whole lot of big industry. When you think of Houston and all the big things that Houston does, and we have the folks who live here in Klein and go out and do remarkable work throughout Houston and all of Harris County, and we get the great joy and blessing to be able to work with the students whom we have. One of the things you'll hear us talk about literally every time we speak is our shared vision, which in Klein ISD is that every student enters with a promise and exits with a purpose, and that's the sole reason for our existence. And so as we continue to move anything forward, we have that thought, that idea of all of us with our arrows pointed in that direction at the forefront of anything that we do. Our district has I mean, in terms of like the metrics you would see around a school district, we are a very successful school district. Our teachers do terrific work with our students every day, and that's borne out in a variety of ways, whether through graduation rates or SAT scores or wherever you want to pull. There's always room for improvement, but we are certainly a lot of good things happening in Klein ISD. We're also really centered around three strategic priorities, and those are reimagine learning, cultivate talent, and build community. And so, again, as we think about our shared vision, we use those strategic priorities in order to move that vision forward. And so we're engaged in a lot of work around those particular strategic priorities. Of course, as we think about this particular project, we think about build community and what that looks like. And so this was just another opportunity for us to be able to communicate well with our community at large, both our internal community and external community, our students as well, so that we can ensure that those feedback loops and feed forward loops continue to be very real and active in the district. So that's a bit about Klein ISD.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Dr. Champion. I want to ask you a question about that last point that you made, just about that communication. We know that in the wake of Parkland and other recent tragedies that school safety has been top of mind for a lot of people. And as I understand it, that is absolutely true for your district as well. So can you tell us a little bit more of what the climate, the environment was, post that event, and maybe what led you to this initiative?
Yeah, so post that event, that terrible tragedy, there was just this palpable is the word that comes to mind. Just this palpable need for people to hear and to understand that our students are safe. And that was for our employees, that was for our parents. That, I mean, just there was this need, this urgency around it. And obviously, this is something that we talk about all the time. We talk about that safety is always our top priority. Without safety, both physical and emotional safety, that we can't make our shared vision come to life. But in the face of that tragedy at Parkland, there was just this real need to be able to communicate, and also not just to push a message out, but we were getting, I mean, so many people in the district were getting questions and trying to understand, you know, how do all the pieces fit together, and how can we best ensure that what we're doing is really keeping our students safe. So for sure, we had questions from all sectors of our community. Great questions from our parents and our students, and certainly our staff as well.
I think you guys made a really good point when we first started asking you about this work, that school safety is a 24/7 job. And so I'd love for you guys to just speak a little bit more about that.
So we talked earlier, this is Justin Albert, that, decades ago or so, it was it ended. At the end of the school day, school ended and the kids went home, they went to their families, and that was the end of their responsibility pretty much. And now the kids go home and they're even more connected at home than they are in school, because we kind of limit their use a tiny bit. So they're even more connected at home, and they're in their rooms and they're connecting and they're going back and forth and they're sharing. That's the thing. They're sharing all these pieces they hear. So they're our eyes and our ears, and we had to find a way to peek into that and get them to outcry to us, get them to self-report, get them to, they know their friends and their community better than we ever could of their friends. So they're able to get out there and use Let's Talk and report to us what they're seeing.
This is Chief Kimberly. As Justin was saying, the 24-hour-a-day clock that, if you would, around the school district, this place genuinely never sleeps. And as such, we have a 24-hour-a-day police department. And many of this connectivity, or what Justin was referencing, the connectivity after hours, many times our students will make the report via the Let's Talk app or through our Keep Klein Safe website, or even social media, as well as phone calls, or maybe even their parents. And it allows us to, if you would, get a head start before the next school day to go ahead and start working, looking at these and making our way through it, because again, the priority is making sure that our schools are safe and that our kids feel safe, and our connectivity with them. This tool with the Let's Talk app, being able to actually provide almost instant feedback, or very timely feedback, if you would, to our students and our parents and our staff. I think that's part of that, making sure people feel safe as well as they are safe.
Yeah, that was one question that comes to mind, specifically with how kids are using it. Are you finding that what you're receiving through your Keep Klein Safe page is it all threats? Are there questions, or how are students really using the tool?
On our end, it's all of the above. I mean, we've got students asking questions about whether it's administrative things, whether it's situations that have occurred on the campus, or even, again, some of it is threats or concerns. We've had students report concerns about other students or things like that, and it's allowed us to really reach out and work with the administration, our counseling department, and make sure that we're reaching the student that this concern is expressed about, and work with that student and find out if that is a valid concern, and if so, help get them in the right place, get their parents involved, or whatever that looks like, and make sure that we're getting them the assistance they might need.
And I think what's been great is that we've had Let's Talk, and we've had great interest in use of Let's Talk through our parents and through the community. But when we started using Let's Talk for Keep Klein Safe, that is really when we saw a huge spike in students utilizing Let's Talk to be able to get access to help, to get their questions answered, to, as Chief said, report when they have a friend that they're concerned about. And what's been so beautiful is the way that Let's Talk has allowed us to really serve the whole student and to better meet their needs in a very timely, responsive way, as well as provide a safe place for them to share with us their concerns and their thoughts, where we can actually take action quickly to help address those needs. Sometimes students will post things on social media, and it may or may not be a place where we're monitoring, and it may not be a place where we're connected or linked in with that conversation. But by providing them a safe space on Keep Klein Safe through Let's Talk, we're really able to hear their voice and then get them the help and assistance that they need. And it really has been just a phenomenal way to even deepen our partnership with the Let's Talk app.
Great. Well, of course, we love hearing that, but you touched on something in terms of timeliness, and I think that's one component of this tool that we've sort of, I don't want to say stumbled upon, but the whole customer experience aspect of it, and how, whether we're talking about safety or anything else, that when it comes down to interacting with our stakeholders, there's a customer service component to it. And so could you speak a little bit to how some of the data that you get behind when whether it's students or anyone else is using this tool for safety or any other topic, how this kind of information helps you in the work that you guys do?
So for us, I mean, the ability to tag incoming dialogues with certain key phrases, so we can tag them. This is a mental well-being. Is this an outcry? Is this a threat report? We can tag it per campus, and getting the analytics back for that. We can pull a report and say, how many times has a threat been reported on Let's Talk to this specific campus, or how many times, have we seen a recent spike in number of kids that are reporting, that their friend is. We have one a couple of days ago. A friend said, hey guys, I don't know if it's the right place or not, but my friend seems really depressed lately. He seems a little bit off. And we reported it, get the kid some help. I mean, who knows where that could have gone, but this is a way the kid feels safe. They felt safe in this online platform. And it's things like that we can go, and talk about analytics. We can go and have we seen a national or local tragedy, and has there been a spike and an increase in the number of this certain tag or this certain topic coming up? And then also, are we handling their messages fast enough? If they're coming in, Let's Talk's great about categorizing. Is it critical or non-critical? And you can go in there and say, if they use certain key phrases in a report, it tags it as critical. And we can go in there and say, okay, with critical reports, we have had a response time of an hour. And with non-critical reports, we've had a response time of 4 or 5 hours. So where are we at on that? And our numbers are far lower, because Chief is up to like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, running those reports, running those responses and answering them himself. So that aspect of it has been really nice to kind of look at the data.
Well, Justin's wrong. I just haven't figured out how to turn the notifications off, so it wakes me up in the middle of the night. However, that particular instance that Justin was talking about a minute ago with the student that made the report, my friend's not, they were a little concerned with their friend. The beauty of this is that many times on a social media platform or even an anonymous email, getting that response back. In this particular instance, we needed more information. You have to, mind you, we have a high school campus. That particular campus has almost 4,000 students on it. And to narrow it down by first name and a very basic description, and they reported it through the anonymous, but being able to respond back to that, because I had no idea the name of the person who was reporting it. And I believe our kids really like being able to remain anonymous, but being able to message back, can you give me more details? They very quickly said, okay, it's going to be in this period, and this is, these are a better description of the person. So it allowed us to move, instead of chasing through 100 potential persons, we were able to narrow it down to that specific person very quickly and intervene that way. So the two-way piece of the tool has been phenomenal.
Great. Can you tell me more, given that point? You mentioned how they're using it to report threats, to ask questions. Of course, they can access those FAQs that you guys have on the page where they can submit their questions and report anything. What has the community's response been, whether it's a parent or a student or a staff member? How are they responding to being able to communicate with you in this way?
I think, this is Judy Romano. I think that the community as a whole has really embraced Let's Talk. We've used it for a number of things beyond Keep Klein Safe. We've used it for strategic planning, where we garnered 6,000 responses, and we've used it for zoning input, where we garnered many responses, and then Keep Klein Safe. I think it's just it's a safe way for the community to contact us, and they can do it anonymously, or they can do it hidden, or they can give us their name, and oftentimes we'll call them, and we always respond to them. It's just a real safe way for them to be able to get a response back from us, and I think that they really appreciate that.
And I think Chief answers these. I mean, it's, you know, and it's, I think he's special in doing this, chief of police answering questions. But when a child gets a response from the chief of police, man, there's nothing more reassuring in your life as a student going, I just said something, and the chief of police for the police department of this school district answered me back personally. And it might be 11 p.m. or whatever, and he's answering. If not, it's one of the captains. And I think that is really reassuring. And that word of mouth that we're not going to get to see, but the kid is 100%, I know this, going to tell their friends, I talked to the police. Here it is. I'm going to show you what a response I just got. And that's just going to further out this program, saying, you know, the next kid's going to go, oh, my friend got a response from Let's Talk. I'm going to try that now. So,
and one of the things that the tool, or something that I particularly appreciate with the tool, is the fact that templates are able to be created. So it is easy for me to provide that. I don't have to stop and rewrite or write the entire response each time, especially if it's a question or a comment that's come in multiple times. We create a template, and it allows me to move through those messages fairly quickly by taking the drop-down menu, pull the particular response, modify it to fit the exact, you know, if there's any difference in the question, modify it and get it back out to the person who submitted it very quickly. So it's not, and I'm sharing this for the persons listening, that it's not as cumbersome as you would think it is. You know, I spent a few minutes, and again, it comes in on my phone. It's an app, so it's very easy to move through as you're working through your day or whatever. It's take a minute, answer one, and move on.
A related question to that, Chief, that I think would be really helpful for everyone to hear. You know, I often hear a concern, or I imagine some people listening in may be wondering, you know, this sounds like a great idea, but we don't have the time or the capacity to answer all these or to respond, and just worried about the volume of what would come in if they open themselves up in this way. How would you respond to that concern? Really, anyone at the table?
For me, you know, do we have the, and this is, and I'm going to be very careful how I word this, but if we have a student to whom causes harm, what's your time worth, or what's that student, the potential of that student causing harm to themselves or others? We need to make time. And this is not that cumbersome. It really is not that cumbersome, and it's worthwhile. I mean, we are a district of over 53,000 students. That's significant. That's quite a few students. And we do get quite a few messages. But again, the way that we're working through the Keep Klein Safe, it allows them to look at the FAQs. If they're not getting it there, if they're more specific, they can go to the Let's Talk, and then they get a more specific response. But I think we owe it to our students, our staff, and our parents to be available to answer these questions like that.
I would tailgate on that and just add that two things. You know, it's very important that we build those templated responses so we're staying on message to our kids, especially about certain things about, you know, staff carrying weapons and things like that, or how do we feel about certain issues going around it, and how do we build those templated responses so that we're all on message. And then number two, farming this out and trusting your staff.
Yes.
It's not a sole one person doing this. It has to be a team of people watching Let's Talk, and you all kind of work collaboratively to answer these. Otherwise, it can't fall on the shoulders of one person. We
talk about in Klein ISD that every leader in the organization has to be a skillful communicator. And so that's just an expectation. I mean, additionally, to add on to what Chief has to say, our students are worth our quick communication. And one of the things that's been so helpful about channeling all of the questions and the concerns, or at least the overwhelming majority of them, through Keep Klein Safe, is that it allows us to really monitor what the conversation is. And I think that's invaluable to a district, when you can keep a good feel for what people are worried about, what people are concerned about. And then you build these templates, and then you build these FAQs. It just helps everybody get the information they need so that they feel safe, so that they can do their job, or they can come to school and learn. And that's invaluable.
That makes complete sense. And you made me think of another point that we really wanted to hear you guys talk about. Jenny and Klein, you guys have always been so focused on the whole child, especially when it comes to not just how you're teaching them, but also how you're serving them. And you guys made a really good point when you talked about Keep Klein Safe, that it's not just about physical safety. It's not just about reporting threats, that there are some teachable moments around digital citizenship and mental health that come into play as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Definitely. So one of the things that has been a definite teachable moment recently is just the idea that the words and the things that we do online carry just the same weight as if you're sitting face to face around the table with one another. And for our students who live in a very connected world and are constantly connected via social media to one another, them learning the lesson of how important it is to be a responsible, kind, courteous digital citizen, as well as a citizen who demonstrates integrity in their daily actions, that whatever space they're in, whether that's online or in person, that they have to exercise the same good judgment no matter what. And so the Keep Klein Safe has helped us, as certain things have been reported to us and students haven't made the best choice, helped us to be able to know about that and then work with them through that process of realizing how to make better choices in the future. So I think that's definitely been one teachable moment for our students. But we also, of course, to your point, Shelby, around the whole student, we really do care about our students being mentally healthy in Klein ISD. Yes, we want them to be equipped scholars and we want them to be physically safe, but we also want them to be mentally healthy. And so again, being able to utilize this particular campaign to get a feel for the conversation around the things that students are worried about, that they're concerned about, the way that our students are feeling, and then being responsive at not only connecting them to the chief of police, but also getting them immediately connected to our counselors, to our parent and community engagement support. I mean, that has just been so helpful to us as a district as we try to keep them safe, from their heart to their head to their physical bodies. We want the whole student to be safe in Klein ISD.
Thank you for sharing that. And which, leads me to my next point. We've talked a lot about kids and we've talked about parents some too, but there's a staff component to this as well. And teachers and staff certainly want to have a voice in this issue as too. So will you guys speak a little bit too? I know this is not just an online initiative, that especially when we talk about staff, it goes beyond what you guys are doing just on the Keep Klein Safe website. Would you guys mind speaking to that a little bit as well?
Yeah, you bet.
Absolutely.
One of the things that's remarkable about, as y'all can tell, our chief of police does a terrific job here in Klein ISD. He's the most hands-on police chief you will ever find, I guarantee, and we appreciate him and certainly appreciate everyone who is doing this great work. But one of the things that became very clear was that our staff had a lot of particular questions, and instead of just answering those electronically, Shelby, to your point, Chief Kimberly did something unique. So Chief, why don't you talk about that?
Sir, Doctor. After we launched Keep Klein Safe, we knew that many of our teachers, as it related to particular active shooter events or just general safety in our buildings, there were some concerns, and we didn't experience anything that no other district experienced. So at that point, I started actually meeting with each campus, with all of the staff members, as well as some of the departments. And my goal is, I have not finished because we have quite a few of them, but before school or after school, meeting with them and working through not only what Klein ISD Police Department's done to prepare for an event we pray never occurs, and some of the buildings, some of the things that we're working on as it relates to our buildings, but the Keep Klein Safe website, as well as helping our teachers, or making certain our teachers they understand the resources that are out there when they're identifying a student they may have a concern about. And so it's put our staff at ease, considerably at ease, making the rounds. And again, I still have a few to go, but very, very positive feedback from those that I have visited.
And very helpful to you as well, because I mean, we recently announced that we're going to be looking to make some security improvements across the district, and by David going and talking to all the staff. Those guys are in the buildings in a very personal way every day, and so really got some good feedback about where are some areas we need to make our security better, because there's always room for improvement, and from their perspective, what made the most sense. So I think that's something that we've discovered as well.
Absolutely. Not only buildings, but just things that they want to know personally, because again, much like the student, with the whole student, we're looking at the whole staff member, not only their daytime or their school day, but their evening, when they're at the grocery store or when they're out and about at the movie theater, wherever there might be, just some things, asking them to, pay attention and giving them some ideas and things that they might be looking for and how they might respond if they find themselves in a situation.
Great. And you've talked quite a bit about building trust, and as we talked about the staff component, but then going back to the students and the parent groups as well. And this is often what we preach, giving people have to be able to reach you, to access you. And, their timeliness is incredibly important in terms of how well they feel cared for, and that we want the responses that they get to be accurate, complete, and courteous. And so, any additional context you can give us in terms of how you're trying to do these three things and any success that you've had, whether it's through the use of the Let's Talk tool or otherwise, any other advice that you would give our audience around these three ideas here?
Yeah, so I would, just like any school district, we have multiple platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those places. And the thing is that anybody can contact you in any of those platforms, but we're not all watching them the same way. We've kind of pushed Let's Talk and Keep Klein Safe as a place that we're there. We're there if you need us, on Let's Talk. And I think that's key, because when people, we all do it. You get on a system and it says, chat with us or talk to us, and you put a message. The first thing when you do, when you expect an immediate answer. That's the first thing. And every second they wait after that, that's eroding of not just trust, but it's just is this system going to work? Is this the right place to be? And that's something that we really kind of pushed, that we're trying to be there quickly. But it is those three things you just said. That's how you build trust with your community. You give them a place to talk, and you give them a voice, and then you do answer them. Sometimes they don't like our response, but they respect the fact that they got a response in a timely manner from a person coming from a place that they have the students at heart. That's what's best for students. But I think getting that response, even though they don't maybe not like the response, is respected still.
And beyond that, if you look at our Keep Klein Safe, it says, see it, say it, don't spread it, report it. And if we're not responding to them in a timely fashion, then social media is a wonderful tool, but it can also be a very disruptive tool, if you would, and so we'd much prefer a very timely response through, whether it's Let's Talk, as opposed to it hitting social media and us maybe not seeing it, or it being delayed getting back to them. With the Let's Talk, again, it's a direct notification to a whole bunch of people that are our team, and we're able to get them an answer back. And again, I'll reiterate again, see it, say it, don't spread it, report it. And this is an avenue that we're really pushing hard to our students, staff, and parents.
Great. And so I just have one more point here to get you guys to speak to, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A. But, I think it is very easy to see a piece of technology and check a box and feel like you're doing it right. And, we know, even as someone who's a provider of technology, that technology itself isn't going to make schools safer. So Dr. Champion, or really anyone else, if anything else you would add about your initiative and as a whole, I know it's not just technology. So anything you would say about everything else that you guys are doing as part of this work?
Yeah. So first off, I really want to also thank Justin, who helped kind of put some context around this notion of Keep Klein Safe. He did just this whirlwind of research, till heaven knows how late one night, looking at what other districts were doing. Yes. And trying to pull from the best of all those things. So that's one thing that's really important to note, is that that there are a lot of folks doing some remarkable work out there, and we absolutely need to learn from each other. We talk all the time. Jenny made a good point that, our students, our kids are connected all the time, and we really need to live in that world too. We need to be connected all the time and be sharing these opportunities. And really, I want to thank Justin for helping us structure this particular one. And it certainly was larger than this tool. This tool has definitely had the most legs, let's be clear, because it continues to be a constant piece that we listen to, that we get feedback from. And so that does continue, but it has to be a cultural norm for there to be natural feedback loops and then that you're listening and not just giving an answer, but acting on what you're hearing has to be a large part of the way it works. The other thing that happened is Chief Kimberly and I put out a joint letter to launch this thing. So this was not a soft launch. I mean, it wasn't bells and whistles, but it was like, hey, everybody, we've been getting a lot of questions around what are we doing to keep Klein safe? Well, here's some things. And so we shared a lot of things that are already going on, some things that were planned in the future. Oh, and by the way, here's a way for you to ask any question that you want. And then it takes great folks to be able to respond to all of those pieces. What else? What am I missing in that, Justin?
I think you pretty hit it right there. It's not about the technology. It's about the plan. It's about everybody working together to do this, and it's really something we've owned. I think keeping Klein safe, it's something that's kind of taken this like legs, and yeah, it's centered around Let's Talk, but there's other pieces of this that haven't even started yet. There's a digital citizenship piece that we're always kind of working on, and there's also this mental health piece that we're always kind of working on, and getting with the lead counselors and getting with the guidance counselors on campuses to push this out. So I see year 2 of Keep Klein Safe is keeping Klein safer. We won't call it that, but it's just, because if you can handle those issues on the front end, there isn't a need for this really. And there's always a need for this, but we can handle all those things on the front end and get the kids, if they need help, identify and get help faster and quicker. And this is a tool that's gonna help us do that before it becomes an issue later on.
I just love hearing you guys say that. I mean, as much as we love our technology, at the end of the day, it's not about us. We want it to be something that amplifies the work that you're doing, that scales what you want to do and allows you to do it on across your entire district on a much bigger scale than you could do it alone. So I love that it's been something that's allowed you to do it, to scale it and amplify what you wanted to do from the beginning. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Corey. I'm sure some of our audience have some questions for you guys, so I'll let him talk you through some of those.
Thanks, Shelby. And thank you, Dr. Champion, everybody there at Klein. A wonderful story, and I think so relevant to the things that a lot of folks are going through today in their schools and thinking about how to give students a voice, give parents a voice, and really make their schools safer. We do have some questions here, so I'm gonna jump right into it if you don't mind. One really interesting question that I got to kick this off, actually. Someone asked, oftentimes there is this difference between the way safety is reported or purported in the media in your community and the reality of how safe your schools are. Does using a tool like this or an initiative like this where you're able to communicate back with your community help you at all to kind of set the record straight on safety?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because certainly, we recently were visiting with a local elected official who was asking about this notion of safety in schools, and are schools less safe now? Are they more safe now? And part of what happens is exactly what this question is asking, is that you have a terrible tragedy like in Parkland, and then it continues in the national dialogue for a great period of time, and well, it should, because it was a national tragedy, and yet we have literally thousands and thousands of schools where there is a lot of safety initiatives that are happening, that are proactive, and you like you can't report on how successful your proactive measures were because nothing happened, right? And so that in terms of that, it can't give you that kind of information. But what it does color is the conversation. And so because there's this big national conversation, whatever it happens to be, in this case around Parkland, there's been a large conversation Justin mentioned around carrying, teachers carrying guns, or whatever the topic is at the moment. It allows us to be able to get factual information or frankly, the school district's thoughts about these particular issues out into the people who have the questions. So instead of people having questions, I always say in the absence of knowledge, people create theories. And so what this allows us to do is penetrate those theories with knowledge. And so I don't know that it changes the data, but it certainly allows for people to ask questions of people who can provide some information for them.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent answer. We had another question come in, actually, and this is more about who uses Let's Talk and how you set it up within your team. I know you mentioned that this is something that everyone needs to participate in for it to be effective. When you think about Let's Talk, the software, and how you've set it up on the back end, in terms of the team members that are critical to be able to access and respond or collaborate with team members to respond to people, what does that team look like?
Well, the people sitting at this table and a few more are the people that are on that Keep Klein Safe, that one. We probably have, I think, 10 people total, yeah. Maybe 10 or 11.
I think there's 10, and we obviously, as we work through this, there's some discussion, or needs to be continuing discussion about who else needs to be pulled into it, because there are times that, and identify a little more, again, a district of 53,000, identifying exactly who's responsible for some areas, because you have the ability to, if you receive a dialogue, you have the ability to reassign it if it's misassigned originally. And so I think that currently, I think there's 10, maybe 11 on there, and over time I could actually see that growing to a few more. Again, just making sure we get to very specific areas of responsibility, people that can assist faster.
And I think that's, going out to, we don't just use it for Keep Klein Safe.
That's
It's used system-wide, Let's Talk is, and there's many dialogues you can jump in there. Transportation, Jenny gets all the teaching and learning dialogues. So I think just recently your team has.
Yes, actually today we trained about another 20 folks to help respond to all the Let's Talk that we have about teaching and learning in Klein.
So they knocked out dozens of dialogues and cleared some things up and tagged some stuff. So it's just that matter of, you have to build it slowly, because sometimes if you don't build things slowly, they just fizzle too quickly.
Right.
So I think this is one of those ones that we're going to build the foundation and then go out from there. And it's just a methodical approach of when we get, launched into a department, and then training the people below, that can answer those things. And we trust these people to watch kids, to handle multi-million-dollar budgets, and these people have the answers. So we farm those questions out to the people that have the knowledge.
Well, and I think that's back to the point about the information that's being provided being accurate, complete, and courteous, that it's just so important that all of the responses that people are receiving includes accurate information. So the more folks that you can have that have expertise in an area answering the question directly, that's always great. And then, of course, making sure that everybody understands the importance of being courteous, no matter what the comment might be. It's always very helpful to make sure that people feel they're getting excellent customer service whenever they're submitting their comments virtually or in person.
Hey, Corey, this is Shelby. I'm glad that this topic has come up, because I think this is a value add of our tool that is one of my favorite parts as a former educator and someone who often got frustrated with, I'd get an email from a parent and I would forward it on to someone else because I couldn't answer it, and then I never knew what happened to it. Or, as an administrator, whenever I would ask another staff member to help me respond to something, and then I just was never sure, did they call that parent back? Did they respond to that email? And that is one of my favorite aspects of the tool, is being able to easily reassign a dialogue to another person who's better prepared to respond, but still being able to see what happens to it. So it sort of breaks down those silos across departments and across schools, so that everyone's on the same page.
And
great point.
I'm I'm sorry about that. Sometimes we pull people in that are not in the system because you can email a dialogue out, and we do that. Our chief does that a lot. Just email it out, and once you pull that answer in, it pulls it into the system too. So that's pretty helpful.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, one of the additional questions that we got was just about demand. And we've heard this from some other folks, too, when we've presented this. People ask, does this create more work? And I'd like to hear a little bit from you about the collaboration and how it feels in the department or in the school district in terms of the amount of dialogues that are coming in, how you're able to respond to them, and just the feeling that you get in doing that and having a team that can respond proactively.
So it's the whole about more work thing. Like, who are our clients? Our students, families, community. If we're not answering their questions and if we're not responding to them, they're mentioning these things somewhere else. So it's not about, I don't really think about it. It doesn't matter how much work it is. It's about they're saying these things. It's best that they say them to us and we can handle them so they don't become an issue somewhere else, because these issues are taking place other places. So it's great that we can get in there and kind of, be a voice.
And it goes back to what Shelby said. Everything is tracked. Before we had Let's Talk, we got phone calls and emails about everything that we get questions about and comments about in Let's Talk. The difference is we couldn't track all that then. And now we can tag it and we can see where there's trends. And for example, in Keep Klein Safe, we built the 3 FAQs as we were putting in the different drop downs for people to because we were getting the same questions over and over again. So that's a beautiful thing, because you can build your FAQs as you go along, as the topics come in and you're seeing people repeat the same questions.
Yeah. I think additionally, when you're leading a large team of people, you can keep your eyes on just who's communicating with folks, what kind of things are the information they're sharing. I think to Judy's points, what kind of questions do people have over and over again? That indicates a gap in our communication. So when we can get something pushed out in maybe even in a different channel that helps to get that information to everyone. So I think that just even the ability to look at the metrics, to be able to see what a large team of people are saying and the kinds of things that are being asked in various departments really does help you to be intentional in other channels of communication as well.
Well, I want to thank you all for those responses. Great responses, and I think a great presentation. I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Shelby here. Shelby, if you could go ahead and take them home.
Sure. So just a bit more information here. If you're finding that you want more on school safety, as valuable as this conversation was, we also have a podcast up on TrustEd, which is a great resource, by the way. If you've never heard of TrustEd, our team does an incredible job of pushing content through that platform. You can access it through our website at k12insight.com, but they've just posted a new podcast with Nora Carr, the Chief of Staff in Guilford County, North Carolina. So be sure and check that out. And of course, if you're sitting here wondering what would Let's Talk look like in my district, wanting to know a little bit more about how you specifically could use it, I'm happy to talk you through that. I can be reached by email or by phone. You can use either of these up here on the screen to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk you through that. But I certainly, before we get off the call, I can't thank the team in Klein enough. We love working with you guys, and so we just are really grateful for you for sharing out your story today. I'm sure that everyone on the call just really benefited from hearing your work there. So thank you again.
Nate, before we go, we just want to again thank K12 Insight. Y'all have been incredible partners with us for almost 2 years now, Shelby. I mean, I remember we talked whenever I was coming into the district about doing a big survey, and y'all were incredibly helpful with those, with all of that work, and through our strategic plan now with the Let's Talk app that we continues to expand in Klein ISD. We certainly appreciate your partnership.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone for joining the call today. We appreciate your attendance and hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone. If you'd like to learn more about K12 Insight, you can go to www.k12insight.com. That concludes today's webinar.